Welcome the anointed ones. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. The usual suspects. But let's be real. Sometimes the devil isn't hiding. Sometimes they're standing right in front of you, smiling, acting like they've got your best interests at heart while secretly plotting your downfall. And the worst part, they're pissed because you didn't fall for it. Here's a fact. Psychologists say manipulation works best when the victim reacts emotionally. That's why the Karmic tried everything: gaslighting, guilt trips, fake spiritual awakenings, even that classic move, the "I've changed" speech. They expected tears, rage, a dramatic showdown. They wanted you on the floor, broken, questioning your sanity. But instead, you did the one thing they never saw coming. You didn't react. No shouting matches, no desperate text essays, no "let's fix this" speeches, just silence, peace, and maybe a little snack, because let's be honest, this whole thing was exhausting and stress burns calories. And that was the ultimate betrayal to their twisted game. Because Karmics don't just want to win, they want proof that they matter. They want to see you suffer to confirm they had power over your emotions. And when you didn't give them that satisfaction, it shattered them in ways they'll never admit. See, this wasn't just a love triangle. This was spiritual warfare disguised as romance. The Karmic wasn't just trying to steal your partner. They were trying to destroy a divine connection, sabotage destiny, and rewrite fate itself. But the thing about fate, it doesn't care about human tantrums. So grab your popcorn, because today we're diving deep into why the Karmic tried everything to end this union, and why their biggest frustration is that you refuse to play their game. Number one, the Karmic never loved your partner, they wanted to own them. The Karmic never loved your partner, they wanted to own them. There's a huge difference. Love is about nurturing, growing, and supporting. Ownership is about control, power, and possession. From the very start, this wasn't about romance, it was about dominance. The Karmic didn't see your partner as a person with their own thoughts, feelings, and destiny. They saw them as an extension of their own ego, a trophy to prove their worth to the world. That's why everything they did was rooted in manipulation, not love. They fed your person with false validation, emotional blackmail, and just enough affection to keep them hooked. The goal was never a healthy, loving relationship. It was power through dependency. And it worked for a while. Your partner fell into the trap, mistaking control for care, mistaking attention for affection. The Karmic didn't want a partner, they wanted a puppet. But here's where things got messy. They never fully had them. Because deep down, your person's heart and soul were always somewhere else. With you. And the Karmic felt it. They sensed that no matter what tricks they pulled, no matter how much guilt, temptation, or manipulation they used, they would never truly own your partner's spirit. That realization drove them insane, so they did what all desperate people do when they feel control slipping away. They escalated. They tried to isolate, deceive, and sabotage. They lied about you, twisted truths, and used every trick in the book to keep your person locked in their web. Because in their mind, if they couldn't have them fully, no one else could either. That's why they fought so hard. Not out of love, but out of fear of losing their grip. Not because they wanted your partner to be happy, but because they needed to prove to themselves and the world that they were still in control. But control built on fear and illusion never lasts. And now, it's falling apart. Number two, your calmness destroyed their script. The Karmic had a whole script planned out. They expected screaming matches, tearful breakdowns, desperate pleas, or at the very least some messy drama they could use to fuel their victim narrative. They wanted to push you into a reaction that would make them look like the innocent one and you look unhinged. But instead of giving them the performance they were hoping for, you did the one thing they never saw coming. You stayed calm. You refused to play their game, and that shattered them more than any words ever could. Nothing drives a manipulator crazier than losing control over someone's emotions. The Karmic thrived on chaos because that's what made them feel powerful. Every argument, every outburst, every emotional reaction was proof that they still had influence, that they still mattered. But when you didn't react the way they expected, it sent them spiraling. How dare you not break down? How dare you not lose sleep over their games? They needed you to lash out so they could turn around and say, "See, look how crazy they are." But you left them with nothing. That's when the real panic set in. They started trying harder, poking, provoking, pushing every button they could find. They spread lies, played mind games, and even acted like they didn't care, hoping that would get a response. But all they got was silence. That silence was louder than any argument, more painful than any insult. It meant they had no power left over you. The worst thing you could have done to them wasn't to fight back. It was to move on, to live unbothered, to glow in their absence. Because now they have to sit with the truth. You were never the weak one. They were. The only power they ever had was the illusion that they controlled you. And the moment you stopped reacting, that illusion shattered completely. Number 3, the Karmic's power only worked on the weakest version of your person. The Karmic's power only worked on the weakest version of your person. The version that was insecure, lost, and easily swayed. They weren't attracted to strength, growth, or self-awareness. They thrived on weakness. As long as your person was operating from a place of fear, self-doubt, and emotional wounds, the Karmic had them exactly where they wanted them. That's why they built the relationship on manipulation instead of love. They didn't want a strong partner. They wanted someone easy to control. Your person wasn't stupid. Deep down, they knew something was off. But the Karmic fed them just enough validation, guilt, and emotional tricks to keep them confused. They played on their vulnerabilities, making them feel like they were being cared for when really they were being trapped. Every sweet word was a leash. Every promise was a chain. And it worked for a while. Then something changed. Maybe it was you. Maybe it was divine timing. Maybe your person started waking up, seeing through the manipulation, questioning the lies, feeling the weight of their own unhappiness. And the moment they started growing, the Karmic felt it. They could sense the shift, the slipping away. That's when the desperation kicked in. They started using every trick in the book. Fake apologies, love bombing, emotional breakdowns, even threats, because they knew that once your person became stronger, wiser, and more self-aware, they would no longer be controllable. And if they weren't controllable, they were useless to the Karmic. That's the brutal truth. The Karmic never had real power. They only had borrowed leverage over someone who wasn't fully in their strength yet. But now, the illusion is breaking. Your person is starting to see the difference between real love and control, between comfort and captivity. And once they break free, the Karmic will be left with nothing. Because without manipulation, without mind games, they have no real relationship at all. Number 4, the Karmic's obsession wasn't just about winning, it was about being seen. The Karmic's obsession wasn't just about winning, it was about being seen. This was never just a love triangle. This was a battle for validation, a desperate attempt to prove their own worth to themselves and the world. They didn't just want your partner. They needed them to confirm their existence. To be discarded, ignored, or replaced wasn't just painful. It was a direct attack on their fragile sense of self. That's why they fought so hard. Not because they truly loved your person, but because losing meant confronting the emptiness within themselves. That's a truth they weren't ready to face. So they played every card they had: manipulation, victimhood, seduction, even self-destruction. Anything to keep your partner attached. Because if your person chose you or walked away, it would confirm their deepest fear, that they were never truly wanted in the first place. This is why their tactics were so extreme. It was never just about the relationship. It was about erasing any possibility that they could be forgotten. They needed to be the center of attention, the most important person in the room, the one who mattered the most. And if they couldn't have that, they would rather destroy the connection entirely than be left in the shadows. That's the real reason behind the lies, the mind games, the emotional outbursts. It wasn't about love, it was about control over their own narrative. As long as they could manipulate the situation, they could avoid the truth. But the truth has a way of surfacing. And now, with everything falling apart, they're being forced to sit with the one thing they ran from their whole life, the realization that their worth was never in someone else's hands. Number 5, they wanted to become you but couldn't handle the responsibility. The Karmic wanted to become you, but they couldn't handle the responsibility that came with it. At first they thought it would be easy. They studied you, your mannerisms, your energy, the way you carried yourself. They mimicked your style, your words, even your attitude toward life. But what they didn't realize was that being you wasn't an act. It was the result of real work, real pain, and real growth. They saw the light, but they never understood the fire it took to create it. They thought if they looked like you, talked like you, or acted like you, they could replace you. that your partner would see the similarities and forget the original, but imitation only works on the surface. True presence, true energy, that can't be faked. And the more they tried to become you, the more obvious it became that they weren't even close. Because where you had depth, they had illusion. Where you had self-awareness, they had insecurity. Where you had wisdom, they had desperation disguised as confidence. The real breaking point came when they realized the weight of what it actually takes to be you. The patience, the emotional strength, the self-reflection, the sacrifices. They thought they could wear the crown, but they never considered the burden. Because being you isn't just about having someone's love, it's about deserving it. It's about showing up fully, doing the inner work, facing your demons instead of running from them. And that was too much for them. So when imitation failed, they turned bitter. What they couldn't become, they tried to destroy. What they couldn't embody, they tried to discredit. Because nothing frustrated them more than realizing that no matter how much they copied, they would never replace the original. And deep down, they knew they were never built to be you. Number 6, they used every trick in the book except genuine love. The Karmic used every trick in the book except genuine love. They pulled out every weapon they could find: manipulation, sex magic, emotional blackmail, guilt trips, smear campaigns, even using children as pawns. But never once did they operate from a place of pure, unconditional love. And the reason is simple: they didn't have it to give. Love is abundant, selfless, and freeing, but the Karmic doesn't operate from abundance. They operate from lack, fear, and desperation. Their entire approach to relationships is about control, not connection. They don't love in a way that nourishes. They cling in a way that suffocates. Their version of love is transactional. If I do this for you, you owe me. If I give you something, I expect control in return. That's not love. That's a contract with hidden terms. That's why their tactics were always forceful. Love doesn't require manipulation, but desperation does. They use seduction, hoping to trap your person in lust. When that didn't work, they resorted to emotional blackmail, crying, threatening, making themselves the victim to make your person feel guilty for even thinking about leaving. Then came the smear campaigns, the lies, the twisting of facts to turn people against you, hoping that if they couldn't make your person stay, they could at least destroy your name in the process. And if all else failed, they would use children, family, or other external forces to guilt your person into staying. Because for them, relationships aren't about genuine connection. They're about winning, possessing, and keeping control. But here's the kicker. Real love doesn't have to fight this hard. Love allows freedom. Love doesn't need to manipulate, beg, or destroy others to prove itself. And that's why no matter what they tried, they ultimately failed. Because while they were busy using tricks, you were standing in truth. And truth always wins. Number 7. They wanted you to break first, so they wouldn't have to face their own brokenness. The Karmic wanted you to break first, because if you did, they wouldn't have to face their own brokenness. They pushed every button, threw every dagger, created chaos at every turn, all in the hope that you would snap. If they could get you to react, to spiral, to lash out, they could point the finger and say, "See, I'm not the problem, they are." It was never about you, it was about avoiding their own reflection. The truth is, they've been running from themselves their entire life, from their unhealed wounds, their deep-seated insecurities, the parts of themselves they refuse to acknowledge. But instead of doing the inner work, they used relationships as a distraction, shifting the blame onto others instead of fixing what's broken inside them. If they could turn you into the unstable one, they wouldn't have to sit with their own chaos. That's why they poked and provoked. They needed you to lose control so they could feel justified in their actions. If you snapped, they could keep playing the victim. If you retaliated, they could convince themselves that you were always the problem. But when you refused to break, when you stayed calm, when you walked away instead of engaging in their mind games, that left them with nothing but themselves. And now, they're trapped in a room with their own demons, with no one left to blame. The silence is deafening. The truth is unbearable. They spent so much time trying to break you, they never realized they were already shattered. And now, without you as a distraction, without chaos to hide behind, they're finally being forced to face the monster in their own mirror, alone. Number 8. They thought the union was a game, but you were playing for destiny. The Karmic thought this was a game, something they could scheme, manipulate, and win if they played their cards right. To them, it was about competition, ego, and proving they were better. They were obsessed with outshining you, making your person choose them, and feeding their fragile self-worth by winning. But what they failed to realize was that you were never playing the same game. This wasn't about proving who was more desirable, more powerful, or more worthy. This was about destiny, soul contracts, and divine alignment. While they were busy plotting and strategizing like this was some high school love triangle, you were operating on a completely different level, one they weren't even aware of. You weren't chasing, begging, or fighting for scraps of attention. You were standing in your power, knowing that what is truly meant cannot be stolen, manipulated, or destroyed. That's why their tactics never worked the way they wanted. They tried seduction, control, mind games, and lies, thinking they could bend fate in their favor. But this was never about human will. This was about divine order. They were playing checkers while the universe was playing chess. And no matter how many moves they made, how many tricks they used, they were never in control of the outcome. That's the part that's destroying them now. Because after all the effort, after all the schemes and manipulation, they're realizing they never had real power. They were just a temporary detour, a karmic lesson, a shadow trying to block the light. But destiny doesn't negotiate with ego. And now, as the truth unfolds, they're left with the devastating reality that they never stood a chance. Because this was never a game to begin with. Number 9, the more they fought against destiny, the more they destroyed themselves. The Karmic really thought they could outmaneuver destiny, like fate was some weak force they could bend to their will. But what they didn't understand is that karma keeps receipts, and divine order is not up for negotiation. Every scheme, every manipulation, every underhanded move they made wasn't bringing them closer to victory. It was building their own downfall, brick by brick. Karmics always operate from a place of force, not flow. They think if they just try hard enough, lie enough, seduce enough, manipulate enough, they can rewrite fate itself. But the universe doesn't work that way. What is meant will always be, and what is not will always fall apart. The more they fought against destiny, the more they destroyed themselves in the process. And now, they're paying for it. Maybe it started with small losses, things going wrong, relationships crumbling, opportunities slipping away, but karma is patient. It lets people dig their own graves before dropping the final blow. Now, as they sit in the ruins of everything they tried to control, they're realizing a painful truth. They were never fighting you. They were fighting themselves, because destiny wasn't their enemy. Their own fear, insecurity, and refusal to grow were. Instead of healing, they chose to sabotage. Instead of surrendering to divine timing, they chose to force their own agenda. And now all that energy they put into destroying this union is coming back full circle, to destroy the illusions they built their life on. Karma doesn't play favorites. It doesn't forget. And the Karmic is finally understanding what they refused to accept all along. You can't win against fate. You can only align with it. Number 10, the real enemy was never you. It was their own fear of being irrelevant. The real enemy was never you. It was their own fear of being irrelevant. This was never just about your connection with your person. It was about what your presence represented to the Karmic. The possibility that they never truly mattered in the first place. For someone deeply insecure, irrelevance is a death sentence. The thought of being forgotten, discarded, or replaced is unbearable. They didn't just want to win. They wanted to prove that they were important, that they held real power, that they could control the narrative. And you? You shattered that illusion just by existing. You weren't the villain in their story, but they needed you to be. Because if you weren't the enemy, then they would have to face the real problem. Their own lack of self-worth, their fear of abandonment, their inability to create a solid identity outside of validation from others. That's why they obsessed over you. You were never the problem. You were the mirror. And what they saw in that reflection, it terrified them. You forced them to confront what they lacked, the confidence they pretended to have, the love they never truly gave, the deep emptiness they covered with manipulation and control. They hated you because you represented everything they couldn't fake: authenticity, depth, and true connection. That's why they attacked, sabotaged, and schemed. It wasn't about your person choosing you. It was about them feeling like they weren't chosen at all. But that was never your burden to carry, because no amount of external validation can fix an internal void. And now, They're realizing that the real battle was never with you, it was always with themselves. Number 11. They didn't just want to end the union, they wanted to destroy your light. The karmic didn't just want to end the union, they wanted to destroy your light. It was never just about keeping you and your person apart. That was only part of the plan. The bigger goal, breaking you, dimming your energy, making you doubt yourself. Because in their twisted mind, if they couldn't have the love they wanted, no one deserved to feel whole. This wasn't just jealousy, it was pure resentment toward everything you embodied. Your strength, your grace, your ability to love without manipulation. These were all things they lacked. And instead of learning, instead of healing, they chose to attack the very qualities that exposed their own emptiness. They wanted you exhausted, drained, questioning your worth. That's why they played the mind games, spread the lies, and worked so hard to make you feel unseen. Because a broken version of you was less of a threat. A doubting, insecure, emotionally shattered you, that's what they hoped to create. But here's where they failed. Your light was never theirs to dim. They could try to tarnish your name, but they couldn't touch your soul. They could throw obstacles in your path, but they couldn't steal your destiny. No matter how much they tried to destroy you from the inside out, all they really did was expose their own darkness. And now they're the ones sitting in it. While you rise, while you heal, while you step into your full power, they're left with the ruins of their own bitterness. Because that's the difference between you and them. You create, they destroy, and destruction never wins against light. Number 12. The union survived because it was rooted in purpose, not illusion. The union survived because it was rooted in purpose, not illusion. Karmic connections thrive on temporary desires, surface-level validation, and trauma bonding. Things that feel intense in the moment but have no real foundation. They're built on control, manipulation, and emotional highs and lows, keeping both people trapped in cycles of attachment, not love. But divine unions, they're forged in truth, transformation, and a higher calling. The reason the karmic failed was simple. Their foundation was a house of cards, and destiny blew it down. No matter how much they schemed, no matter how hard they fought to hold on, what is built on lies can never last. Their connection with your person wasn't about growth, it was about possession. It wasn't about mutual evolution, it was about ego and control, and anything built on that kind of energy will always self-destruct. Meanwhile, your connection wasn't just about romance, it was about alignment. It was about purpose, mission, and spiritual elevation. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And real things withstand storms. That's why, no matter how much chaos the karmic created, they couldn't break what was divinely protected. They were never meant to be the final chapter. They were just a lesson, a stepping stone, a catalyst for awakening. And now, with the illusion shattered, all that remains is truth. The karmic was fighting for something that was never truly theirs, pouring energy into something that was already slipping through their fingers. Because destiny cannot be manipulated and love cannot be forced. That's why they lost. Not because you won, but because they were never supposed to be there in the first place. Number 13. They thought your absence would make your partner miss them, but it only exposed their darkness. The karmic thought that once you were gone, your partner would finally see them as the one. They believed that your presence was the problem, the obstacle, the reason why things weren't working out the way they wanted. So they pushed, schemed, and manipulated to get you out of the way, convinced that once you were gone, they would finally have the undivided love and attention they craved. But instead of bringing them closer, your absence exposed the truth. Without you there to shift the focus, the karmic could no longer hide behind drama, distractions, or blame. The cracks in their illusion became painfully clear. There was no more competition to fuel their ego, no more excuses to mask their own toxicity. The relationship had to stand on its own, and it couldn't. Your partner started to see what was really in front of them. The emotional manipulation, the possessiveness, the insecurity, the constant need for validation. It wasn't passion. It wasn't love, it was control. And without you as a scapegoat, the karmic was left alone with their own darkness. That's the part they never saw coming. They assumed your partner's feelings for you were just habit, comfort, or nostalgia. Something that would fade once you were no longer in the picture, but your connection was never just about presence, it was about energy, and no matter how much they tried to take your place, they couldn't replace what they never embodied in the first place, And now, the illusion is broken. Your partner isn't missing them. They're realizing who they truly are. And the karmic? They're left to face the very thing they spent so much time avoiding, the fact that the problem was never you. It was always them. Number 14, the final blow. Your glow-up is their living nightmare. The final blow? Your glow-up is their living nightmare. They didn't just want to take your person. They wanted to take your peace, your confidence, your essence. They wanted you broken, bitter, lost in the pain they created. In their mind, your suffering was supposed to be proof that they had won. They expected you to fall apart, to beg, to disappear into the background, but instead, you elevated, you healed, you flourished. You moved forward with a strength they never saw coming. And nothing, absolutely nothing, is more devastating to a karmic than realizing they threw everything at you, and you still came out untouched. Because for them, power is about control, external validation, and feeding their ego. But for you, power was always internal. They thought taking your person would dim your light, but they never understood. Your light never came from them. Your glow was never dependent on anyone but yourself. And now, they're drowning in their own bitterness. They're stuck watching you rise, knowing they played every trick in the book and still couldn't break you. That's the part that's eating them alive. Not just that you survived, but that you became even greater. Your success, your happiness, your peace, that's the ultimate revenge. Not because you were trying to get even, but because your existence alone proves they never had real power to begin with. They didn't destroy you. They exposed themselves. And now, while they sit in the mess they created, you're thriving in the destiny they could never touch. In the end, the truth always wins. No matter how much the karmic schemed, manipulated, and fought against destiny, they were never in control of the outcome. Because fate isn't something you can cheat, love isn't something you can force, and power isn't something you can steal. They tried everything to break you, to keep your person trapped, to rewrite the story in their favor. But all they really did was expose their own darkness. Every lie they told, every trick they played, every attempt to destroy what was meant to be only pushed them further into their own downfall. And now, they're left with nothing but the consequences of their own choices. But you rose. You didn't fight their battles. You let divine order handle them. You didn't beg, chase, or lower yourself to their level. You stood in truth, in grace, in power. And that's why you're untouchable. That's why, while they're stuck in a cycle of their own making, you're free. This was never about them. It was never about proving anything. It was always about you stepping into your highest self, your purpose, your divine path. And now, as you continue to evolve, shine, and move forward, the greatest lesson becomes clear. What is meant for you will always find you, and what isn't will always destroy itself trying to take your place. If this message resonated with you, if you felt that deep confirmation in your soul, then don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, drop a comment below and share it with someone who needs to hear this truth. Your engagement helps this message reach those who are searching for clarity, healing, and empowerment. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications, because we're just getting started. There's so much more wisdom, revelation, and raw truth coming your way. Join this community where we expose illusions, break cycles, and step fully into divine power. Your glow-up is just beginning. Let's rise together. Subscribe now.